Some say violence does not solve problems. Those people are probably just causing problems and they don't want you to kill them for it. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I am your host Liam, aka Hembar, and today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of Gregory Amato's Burden to Bear. Burden to Bear is a 2023 novel and first of a trilogy called The Spear of the Gods, and it is by Gregory Amato. There is a prequel novella called The Skald, which I have previously reviewed, and this novel, Burden to Bear, was actually recently kickstarted and, well, will be available soon. So this, again, is as the kind of the first novella was, which you don't need to read before going into this, but there's no real reason not to. Novellas are short and pretty quick to read through, but it is a sort of comic historical fantasy setting. I would label it a sword and sorcery, actually. If you wanted to be more broad, you could say it's heroic fantasy, but definitely comic. You can't forget that. It's definitely very funny. So the story starts in Silfast Hall, where we meet our protagonist as he tells of his first meeting with Magnus the Red, who is unknowingly flirting with a witch. Ansgar is performing since he's a skald, and he is thinking on whether this is truly a witch, though the odd ash box in her wrinkled hand seem to point to such a conclusion. While pondering what he can do without simply blurting out witch, he is, trying to help out this Magnus the Red guy, though. So, of course, again, our hero is Ansgar. He's making jokes, he's getting in trouble. It's a ripping start, and at the end of chapter 1, we know more fun will be had as he attempts to deliver a sword for his father-in-law. Things compound quickly in the first few chapters. It certainly isn't rushed or overweighted, but there's good storytelling going on, and there's good stakes that are coming up. We also get more of Ansgar and his familial relations. He was raised by his grandfather, a famous smith. His father is absent. He has gone a Viking basically all the time, and there seems to be a disappointment present in the father-son relationship. Eager to prove himself, our narrator stumbles into what he would normally avoid, which is combat. This lack of battle prowess is what makes him more of an outsider, along with his skaldic position and his knowledge of languages, and you could kind of say affinity for magic. That'll kind of come up a few times in the book. It was really cool to see things like Hanavatavel in the story, and I also spotted some references to things like, just Northern legend in general, but as well as like the Lord of the Rings. The Kennings and the Rune and women's magic are also present. The story takes place partly in Lyra as well, or Lyra. It is about hunting a troll to an extent. Lyra is generally considered the home of the Shieldings of Herit in the poem Beowulf, so that's really awesome. Overall, the comic, heroic, historical fantasy vibe is very much makes this a fun romp. There's much irony and action. It reads modern, as, I don't imagine a skald would ruminate on whether berserker means bear shirt or bear shirt, but given the tone, it fits, as it actually seems like, that this is a story being told to someone like Amato in the present day. And in chapter 12, we actually have the story of the skald mentioned, which is cool, but again, you should read it here. It doesn't go into full detail anyways in chapter 12, it's just briefly mentioned. And for comparison's sake, this reminded me some of Kings of the Wild, just for the comedy. This is better executed, I think. It's not all pop culture references, and it's contained within a more gripping story, something that's, I don't know, at this point, can you call like Viking fantasy unique? I don't know, but it seems more unique, at least, than whatever the Kings of the Wild does. But anyways, this is, there's scenes with Magnus in Kraki and Kari that are extremely badass, just to put it bluntly, and I would just describe as good old sword and sorcery. It's an interesting contrast to the main character's battle incompetence, but fecund ability to stir up trouble. There's also great playing with truth and lies in the stories we tell. I wouldn't say it's going into the truth is relative area, but rather the angles we take for comfort or to avoid further bloodshed. Beyond adventure, there is some adult content and politicking. Those in charge are generally the incompetent or insidious, it seems. The Roos play a role of antagonism as well that may be inspired by current events, but also makes sense historically as well. It doesn't fall into any nationalistic problem. There is a whole scene even on swords titled "Purity is Weakness," which goes into this. But it looks like the story takes place in the early 8th century, shortly before the start of the Viking Age. There is a healthy amount of Old Norse words, and a glossary is found in the back to help with those. Overall, though, it is a fast-paced story full of wit, glory, and a sad reality of humanity. It's coming of age, it's about truth through lies, and it's a fun time. Again, sword and sorcery, I'd say some may feel it is a bit too long for that genre label, and may feel more comfortable with the heroic fantasy, historical heroic fantasy label. It is about 400 pages. Either way, it is a fun time, and I'm looking forward to books 2 and 3. Anyways, this has been Liam Williams, ICM. I will catch you next time.